Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor. My name is Reverend Drew Moeller. I use he, him pronouns. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us today, maybe for the first time or visiting, whether you're doing that in person or online. If you're doing that in person, I invite you to stay after the service and join us for coffee and refreshments after the service. It's always a great time to chat and get to know people. And if you're joining us online, I'm going to encourage you to, after the service is over, to stay online for about 10 minutes. You can unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the people who are joining you on the screen. It gives you an opportunity to connect through the miracle of the internet. Before we get started, I just want to let anybody also who's visiting today know that right after the announcements, we'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself if you feel comfortable doing so. You can just raise your hand and John, where's John hiding out here? John Ehrman will come and, or actually Phyllis. Phyllis will bring you the microphone. Okay, because John is fast, but not that fast. We're getting a lot of hum. There we go. With that said, I'm going to invite John to come forward to offer our morning announcements.
Thank you, Reverend Drew. Thank you, Reverend Drew. And this morning... Yeah? Okay. So welcome the few, the proud, for battling the snow to get here and join us this morning. In weather like this, I guess I would start by drawing your attention to the mitten tree. This year, with all due respect to the men out there, we're collecting mittens and scarves and hats through Partners for Peace for the women and children who are cold out there this winter. So please bring in your mittens, hats, and scarves. The offertory collection today, any cash or undesignated gifts in the plate will split with the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter. And I'll remind you about a couple of things going on right here in your very own congregation. Don't miss out on the amazing Pride quilt crafted by Kathy Elliott's mother. You know, we've got a holiday gift basket auction coming up next Saturday, December 14th. And there's almost $4,500 worth of, my goodness. Okay, 31 baskets, so make sure to participate in the gift basket auction next Saturday. And you'll still have a chance to make your bid on the gift basket auction items and on the beautiful quilt that's displayed up on the wall in the Dorothy Memorial. Over to you, Reverend Drew. What? Okay. The basket auction is on Zoom only, and you can also get wreaths and swags until?
15 today.
Until today? All right, today's the day to get your wreaths and your swags. Rosemary, we'll hold up the swag so they can see it. Yeah? All right. You know what a swag is? There's a wreath.
And this is a swag.
All right. Do your Christmas shopping today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And just a reminder that in your bulletin there is a ton of other announcements. We are a busy congregation, so look to that for some other information. So as I promised earlier, if you are visiting today and you would like to introduce yourself, you can raise your hand and Phyllis will be glad to bring you a microphone. I think the microphone is right on the Joys and Sorrows table. Okay. All right. So we'll move along. Let's take a couple deep breaths as we come into this space that is made very celebratory with all the holiday decorations. Center ourselves in the arrival of fresh fallen snow that blankets everything and creates a quiet, peaceful space, just like the quiet and peaceful space that we experience here in the middle of worship at this time of approaching winter and the shortening of the days. May we find comfort and peace in this space, or in the space that you are at home, and know that each and every one of you are welcome here, just as you are. I now invite our choir to help us rise to the occasion with a flame. Thank you, choir, for that wonderful introit. I'm now going to invite Dick Clark to come forward to offer our chalice lighting. And who's lighting the chalice this morning? Who's lighting the chalice? Phyllis. Okay, great. And we'll have you stay up there so we can also do our Advent wreath. Welcome, Dick Clark.
We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace.
In the Christian tradition, the season of Advent is often associated with the season of waiting the 4 Sundays leading up to the birth of Jesus on Christmas Day. But the tradition of Advent has older roots as well. Ancient people in Germany and Scandinavia started the Advent wreath ritual as a time not of waiting for the arrival of a Savior, but waiting for the sun, our star that is the source of light, heat, and life. In ancient times, people lit candles on the 4 Sundays leading up to the solstice. It was an act of supporting the waning sun as the days grew shorter. The closer they grew to the darkest night of the year, the more candles were needed. So today we are going to light the first 2 candles in our Advent wreath. You choose which tradition speaks to you: the Christian spiritual practice of waiting, or the ancient pagan tradition of taking action in the present moment to support the star upon which our lives depend. In honor of our present value of diversity, we're going to light 2 candles. You'll notice our candles are all different colors instead of specific colors that are ecclesiastically significant to other folks. So the rainbow is significant to us. Today, we light the 2nd candle, which represents the candle of hope. As historian and activist Howard Zinn observes, to be hopeful in bad times is not foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that the human story is a story of cruelty, compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in the complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places where, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however a small way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live is defiance of all that is bad around us. It is itself a marvelous victory. Can I get an amen? I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, 56, and the choir is going to help us out a little bit with this as a newer hymn. Let's try again.
Sing
thank you, and thank you for Sojourner for suggesting us trying a new hymn. I like that one. Yeah, and it feels appropriate for the first big snow of the year. I now want to invite our young people to come down for our time for all ages. Today we have a wonderful story that is a video, but I think it's a really great version of a wonderful old tale by Leo Tolstoy, and I hope you enjoy it.
It was Christmas Eve, and although it was still afternoon, lights had begun to appear in the shops and houses of the little Russian village, for a short winter's day was nearly over. Excited children scurried indoors, and now only muffled sounds of chatter and laughter escaped from the closed shutters. An old shoemaker, Papa Panov, was working very hard in his shop getting ready for Christmas. It was really hard work. He was old, lonely, and nearly too blind to see what he was doing. He sat down to rest, nodded off to sleep, and had a dream that Jesus was going to visit him. He got up very excited and thought to himself, "Now, what can I give to Jesus for a present?" He looked all around his little shop, and he saw a tiny box on a top shelf. He remembered what was in it. Some very tiny shoes, the best he had ever made. He would give those to Jesus. Papa Panov awoke early on Christmas morning. He was very excited at the thought of a visit from Jesus. He looked impatiently out his window and down the road. There was a road sweeper, blue and cold and looking very hungry. Papa Panov invited him into his home and made him rest by the fire. Papa Panov gave the road sweeper his own coat and a little of the soup that he had made. There was still enough left for Jesus when he came, so it was all right. The road sweeper went away, very happy. A little while later, Papa Panov looked out his window again. He saw a homeless man walking down the street. Nobody should spend Christmas like that, thought Papa Panov. So he invited the man inside. The man got warm by the fire, had a little of the soup, and Papa Panov gave him all the money that he had. The man went away very happy. It was getting late when Papa Panov looked out his window again. He was getting worried that Jesus was not going to come after all. There he saw a woman with a small baby passing by. They were very cold, tired, and hungry. Papa Panov invited them in to rest too. He warmed some milk for the baby and gave the woman the rest of his soup. Oh dear, he thought, now there won't be any left for Jesus. He looked at the baby. It had nothing on its feet but the icy cold weather. Then he remembered the little shoes and fetched the box down from the top shelf. The shoes fit just right. Papa Panov gave the baby the shoes, but was a little worried at the thought of not having anything to give Jesus. But the woman and the baby were very happy, and they smiled as they left his house. Night came. Papa Panov had not had a visit from Jesus. He went to bed feeling rather unhappy and a little foolish. Then, all at once, he felt that he was no longer alone in the room. This was not a dream, for he was wide awake. And he saw again the cold road sweeper, the young mother and her baby, and the homeless man that he had fed. As they passed, each one whispered, "Didn't you see me, Papa Panov?" "Who are you?" he called out, bewildered. Then another voice answered him, It was the voice from his dream, the voice of Jesus. "I was hungry and you fed me," Jesus said. "I was naked and you clothed me. I was cold and you warmed me. I came to you today in every one of those you helped and welcomed." A great peace and happiness seemed to fill the room, overflowing Papa Panov's heart until he wanted to burst out singing and laughing and dancing with joy. "So he did come after all," was all that he could say.
So, what did you think of the story? Did you like the story? Yeah, it's one of my favorite Christmas stories next to The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I like the message that it has. That there's a couple messages in there, but especially sometimes there are things that happen to us. Like he really wanted this special thing to happen. He wanted to have a visit from somebody special for him, Jesus. And he had made all kinds of preparations, but as the day went on, other things happened, right? Other things happened, and he ended up starting to let go of his attachment, let go of wanting Jesus to come, and started to worry about, well, maybe Jesus won't come. And one of the things that's kind of funny in life is that sometimes when we don't get our own way or things don't happen quite the way that we expect them, if we stay open and kind of can roll along with it a little bit, sometimes we're surprised by the outcome. And in this case, we found that I think Papa Padnov might have been a Unitarian from the standpoint of he saw the divinity in each one of those people who came to visit him, the sweeper, and the woman, and the person who didn't have a permanent house to live in. So there's divinity in everyone, and part of our work is to seek that out in each other. So that's our message for today. Thank you. And I think we're going to now serenade you down to your exploration experiences. Thank you. Now is the time in our service when we open our hearts to each other within this beloved community to share the joys and sorrows that make up the fabric of our lives. If you are here in the sanctuary today, I invite you now to start forming our line for joys and sorrows behind me. If you're online, I encourage you to take a moment to type your joy or sorrow into the chat box, and John Armand will read that joy or sorrow, and I will light a candle for you. We always like to have people participating online too. You are part of our...
A candle of sadness for my brother, whose wife Linda died from Alzheimer's on Wednesday. Ann Perkins.
And just with an update with Paul, I did check in with Paul's family, and they're going to be planning some sort of a musical gathering in the springtime, probably in May or June, to celebrate Paul's life. It will not be an indoor service, but an outdoor hootenanny, open mic gig kind of thing. So we will let you know when we hear more about that. Finally, I light one last candle for all the joys and sorrows that remain within the deep recesses of our hearts and those that are ever present below the surface. May they find hope, love, connection, and may they find a nonviolent release. Dear friends, please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Great universal Spirit, interconnected web of which we're a part, we gather in this time and place that we make sacred by our sharing with each other the details and the experiences of each other's lives. Spirit, today we hold in our hearts those who have passed in the last week, those who are infirm and those who are in the process of healing. May they find the support and the love and heal in the way that brings them joy and helps them return to the things that bring them joy. Spirit, we also hold in our hearts the anniversaries, the birthdays, and the joy that comes in the celebration of working with children and seeing their excitement at this time of year, and the birth of new life, of new children who are coming into this world. And we hope that the world that they find will bring them a space where they can be themselves and live up to their full potential. Spirit, we gather in this time and place because we know that each life tells an important story. Each life holds a deep and abiding truth. By coming together in this time and this space and sharing with one another, we grow closer to each other and we grow closer to becoming one. Blessed be. Amen.
We come to the time in our service when we ask you to open your wallets as well as your hearts and collect today's offering. Half of the undesignated funds in the plate this month are going to the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter.
It is with gratitude that we receive this morning's offering to support this beloved community and the Bangor Homeless Shelter. Thank you for your contributions.
The reading this morning is a Christmas prayer by Maureen Killoran. Not gold, nor myrrh, not even frankincense. Wrong book. Would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. I would, if I could, have for you the gift of courage, the strength to face the gauntlets only you can know, and the firmness in your heart to know that you, yes, you, can be a bearer of the quiet dignity that is the human, sanctified. I would, if by my intention I could make it happen, have for you the gift of connection, the sense of standing on the hinge of time, touching past and future, standing with certainty that you, yes, you, are the point where it all comes together. And I would, if wishing could make it so, have for you the gift of community, a nucleus of love and challenge, to convince you in your soul that you, yes, you, are a source of light in a world too long believing in dark. Not gold, nor myrrh, nor even frankincense, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be.
Thank you, choir. That's so well blended. You're sounding stronger and stronger all the time. Thank you. I love that balance. So December is full of holidays, and each holiday has its own significant meaning and brings with it its own set of rituals and family customs. The largest celebration in our culture is Christmas, the celebration of the birth of the prophet Jesus and the Christian faith. My family had many Christmas traditions growing up. Just after Thanksgiving, we go down to the Eastern Market in Detroit and buy a small Christmas tree and a pot of soil. The tree would make the rounds. It would be the mitten tree at church, like we have the mitten tree back here. Then the third Sunday of Advent, the tree would come home and we would decorate it. And then in the spring, we would plant the tree somewhere outside, and many of our family Christmas trees have grown to be very, very big. We would also attend a candlelight service on Christmas Eve at church. And of course, we actively embraced society's more commercial customs as well, as our stockings were hung by the chimney with care. Now that my parents are gone and my brother and I live far apart, most of those Christmas rituals have been abandoned. Though several of them continue on, though they have taken a slightly different spin. One of my all-time favorites, favorite Christmas rituals was my special reading that my mom and I would do of Charles Dickens' iconic tale, A Christmas Carol. This was a tradition that my mother and I started when I was about 3 or 4 years old. Each Sunday in Advent, I would snuggle up next to my mom in front of the roaring fire in the living room, and she would read to me the fantastic tale of Ebenezer Scrooge with all his ba's and humbugs. I looked forward to hearing about the Cratchit family and Tiny Tim, the ghost of Marley, and the visits of ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Every Christmas since then, I have made time to curl up somewhere in a comfy, warm blanket, now by candlelight, and listen to the recording that my mom made for me the last Christmas we had together, of her reading of Dickens' amazing words. Marley was dead, to begin with. There was no doubt whatsoever about that. The clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner signed his register of his burial. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything that he chose to put his hands to. I love this story because it captures the essence and message, I think, of Christmas in a way that is much more relatable than any scripture verse. It may be even more so because it is contemporary and has less baggage than a Bible verse. Now, don't get me wrong. I still find a lot of meaning in the story of Jesus' nativity, even though the story is fraught with inconsistencies and timing and astronomy and history. And the story of Christmas and the birth of the child Jesus is still a powerful one of hope, joy, and triumph and renewal. My connection to Dickens' Christmas Carol, in that I know I am not alone. If we didn't count the manger scenes and pageants and church worship services, I think that Scrooge probably outnumbers the Nativity in the many times that it hits plays and TV specials and advertisements and movies. It's popular, and I think for a reason. My speculation is that our culture largely embraces Dickens' Christmas Carol because it is seen as being less religious, though the story is quite spiritual in its nature. Dickens' story is deeply grounded in Dickens' liberal Christian views, which included a theology of tolerance, progressive social action, and charity. Although his books are not considered religious, Dickens was a very spiritual man who used his fictional novels to raise awareness and promote moral solutions to social ills in the early Victorian era. Two significant events that highlight Dickens's life and his spiritual transformations are, first, an event that occurred when Dickens was about 12 years old, when his father, who had a decent government job, had been transferred to a small town at a reduced salary. The result was that the family quickly fell into debt, and Dickens' father was put into a debtor's prison until the debt could be paid off. Young Charles was sent to work in a rundown, rat-infested factory, bottling blacking fluid, which was something that was used to line fireplaces. Charles worked long hours, but was only paid 6 shillings a week, which went to pay the family debt. This was a difficult time for Dickens because he was separated from his family, and he had to work very hard under very difficult conditions. After a year of hard labor or so, the debt was finally paid and the family was reunited. Dickens later commented, "How could he be so easily cast away at such a young age?" He felt abandoned and betrayed by the adults who were supposed to care for him, and these sentiments would later become a reoccurring theme in his writing. In 1827, at age 15, he again returned to work, but thanks to the education that his mom had given him, he was able to find a position as a freelance reporter in the London courts, which launched his writing career. Again, in the courts, he saw the fallout from the Industrial Revolution and the horrors of poverty and greed. Dickens' second major transformation came later as a young budding writer. In 1842, Dickens went on his first trip to the United States, where he was enthralled to learn about the American practice of the separation of church and state and Unitarianism. Dickens, who was loosely raised in the Church of England, was enamored of the Unitarian ideals that rejected creeds and dogmas and accepted the humanity of Jesus. He was impressed by the Unitarians' efforts to bring about progressive and social change and educational opportunities for people with low incomes and the disenfranchised. He was also horrified by the institution of slavery, so much so that after a speaking engagement in Virginia, his first in the South, he canceled all the rest of his speaking engagements in the South. In Boston, he met William Ellery Channing, Samuel Longfellow, Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo, and Lydian Jackson Emerson. Dickens was also intrigued by Unitarian leaders and their strong, creedless Christian message, so much so that he decided to become a Unitarian. When he returned to England, he immediately started attending the services at Little Portland Street Unitarian Church in London's West End and developed a friendship with a minister there. Shortly afterwards, Dickens was quoted as saying, "Disgusted with our established church and its pseudonyms and daily outrages on common sense and humanity, I have carried into effect an old idea of mine and joined the Unitarians, who would do something for the human improvement, if they could, and to practice charity and toleration." It was during this time, immediately after his trip to America, that Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. At this point, Dickens became overwhelmingly popular. The proceeds from his American tour were the equivalent of about $1.5 million today. He continued his writing, but he also decided to put his life experience and his Unitarian and humanitarian beliefs into practice, not only through his writings, but also working for social reform and being a philanthropist. So, as you know, I like telling the pieces of Unitarian history, but while we might find the story of Dickens kind of fascinating, I'm also guessing that you're wondering how all of this history and what it has to do with our monthly theme of presence, and how we might approach life in a way that informs our being in this holiday season. To me, the story of A Christmas Carol is all about the idea and concept of presence and transformation. The dictionary tells us that presence is a state or fact of existing, occurring, or being present in a place or thing. It can also describe a person or thing that exists or is present in a place, but is not seen. Dickens' tale is all about presence. It's about being aware of our past and being able to hold on to that with a larger omniscient view of all the greater knowing that could happen from those past experiences. The story is all about helping us to see what is happening in the present, and again, in a greater and perhaps more detached way, so we have a broader perspective. And it helps us to be able to look into the future and look beyond our fears and our anxieties and feelings of dread and see the promise of possibility that can yet be altered by today's actions. In the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, he is aided by his visitation to his past, present, and future. It is the ghost, or as I might describe them, spirit guides, who helped him see those moments of his life with fresh, new eyes. In his past, his spirit guide helped Scrooge see the moments of joy and balanced by moments of disappointment. The spirit of Christmas showed him fond memories and sad ones too. The Spirit helped him see the enduring hardship by cutting off emotions, not just the disappointments, cutting off emotions and disappointments, but also cutting off joy. The Spirit illuminated the defense mechanisms that Scrooge had developed that focused on security and a binary rigidness that created financial success, but also hinted at how the rigidity might also be causing him harm. He repressed the grieving for his partner Marley and his disappointment for a love lost. In the present, we find Scrooge living in a way that is protecting him from the unpredictability and the swing of emotions that are part of everyday life. Anything that didn't follow his parameters of being were bahs and humbugs. This meant that he was spending a lot of his energy protecting and defending the unseen prison of incarceration of his own making. The walls and the boundaries were thick and heavily guarded. And skillfully, the spirit of Christmas present showed how the behaviors and attitudes of Scrooge were being causing him harm because of the capitalist practices that created such division in social life in the world. Perhaps the most powerful part of the visit of Christmas present came when Scrooge noticed a bulge under the cloak of the Spirit and asked him to reveal what was hidden. And I quote from the story here. From the foldings of its robe, it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightened, hideous, and miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung upon the outside of his garment. "Oh man, look here, look down here," exclaimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled out their features and touched them with the freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them, and pulled them into shreds where the angels might have enthroned. Dark devils lurked and glared out menacing. No charge, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade. Through all the mysteries of wonderful creation has monsters so half as horrible and dread. Scrooge startled back, appalled. Having them shown to him in this way, he tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves, and rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. Spirit? Are they yours? Scrooge could say no more. The Spirit replied, they are man's. The Spirit said, looking down upon them, and clinging to me, appealing from their fathers, this boy is ignorance, the girl is want. Beware of them both, for they are of their degree, but most of all beware of this boy, for on his brow I see written that which is doom, unless the writing be erased. Deny it, cried the Spirit, stretching his hands outwards to the city. Slander those who tell ye. Admit it for your fictitious purposes, and make it worse. Abide to the end. Have they no resources? Scrooge cried. Are there no prisons? The Spirit said, reflecting his words back to them. And then the clock struck 12. The final visit from the ghost or spiritual guide was the ghost of Christmas future. The spirit guide remains silent, but slowly reveals to Scrooge things, how they may be, if he continued in the way that he was and the world continued to unfold the way it had been. As the visit unfolds, Scrooge becomes more and more aware that the future is not set in stone. The future is made up of many causes and conditions that have a propensity to move in a particular direction, but can be modified by human action, concern, care, and love. This seems to horrify Scrooge at first, but it also helped him break through some of the hardness that he was carrying. Today, we are focused on the Christmas theme as part of our winter holiday celebrations. And I can't help myself also thinking about the tale of the Christmas Carol has a little bit of a Buddhist lean to it. Today, we celebrate Bodhi Day, the day that the Siddhartha Gautama completed his enlightenment. I think Scrooge went through an adventure that comes from the power of self-reflection, presence of another energy that helped bring clarity to his understanding of the past, present, and future. This has a lot of similarity to the Buddhist teachings of being able to be fully in a state of present with all that we experience, but also being able to step back from those experiences in our lives, become able to look at them with a less attached approach and see the qualities of greed, aversion, and ignorance that causes great suffering in the world and often prevents us from also experiencing great joy. That is what I like about our story of Papa Padnoff, because he had many experiences as a cobbler and a shopkeeper. He knew that what he was capable of, and he also knew how to help people. He had a dream of seeing Jesus as his great winter celebration. And as his day unfolded, he continued to have his plans whittled away at. He gave away the soup that he had prepared that he wanted to share with Jesus. He gave away his best pair of shoes, and he gave away his warm clothes from the fire. It seemed kind of hopeless, and he went to bed feeling that he was disappointed that things had not gone the way that he had. And yet, when he awoke, he became aware of the wisdom of the big picture and then moved into a future that turned out to be transformational when he realized that the sacred, the holy that he was speaking had visited him many times over the day before. So, dear friends, I feel like there is much more that I could say about these stories, but for now, I will leave them for you to explore with your own spirits, to create your own meaning and awareness of this holiday season. And to close, I will close with the famous words of what I consider one of the wise Unitarian theologians, Tiny Tim. May God bless us all, everyone. I now invite you to join in singing our closing hymn, 226, People Look East. As we extinguish our Unitarian Universalist chalice flame, symbol of faith, hope, love, and transformation, let us be reminded that our time of worship has come to an end, but our service to the world of which we are part has just begun. I now invite you to join in singing our benediction. Please turn and wave to our folks who joined us on Zoom today, and we hope that you will stay on and chat with each other for a virtual coffee hour.
That would be well. Yeah.
I got you.
Our thing went quite well. Yeah, that's all.